The night my vampire wife ripped out her own fangs for a mortal man, the entire Crimson Court held its breath, waiting for me to shatter. Serena Voss stood beneath the black marble vault of Nocturne Hall. Blood still glistening on her lips, her broken fangs resting in a silver bowl like some grotesque offering beside the marriage contract she wanted torn to shreds. Beside her, Dr. Evan Mercer, warm-blooded, gentle-eyed, and far too practiced at looking ashamed of stealing another man's wife, kept his hand on her arm like she was already his to protect. She looked at me, with 13 ancient vampire houses watching, and she said, "Adrian, you are my past. Evan is the life I choose." The silence that followed was so deep you could hear the candles flicker in their sconces. House Voss waited for me to rage. Evan waited for me to humiliate myself. Serena waited for the proof she'd always needed that I couldn't let her go. I gave them nothing. I picked up the dissolution page, signed it without a tremor, placed my obsidian wedding ring beside her broken fangs, and said, "Then the bond is released." By sunrise, she learned exactly what that meant. Her blood vault access died before the first light touched the sky. Her noble medical priority vanished like it had never existed. Evan's precious clinic lost its anonymous funding, the lifeblood he'd been so careful not to mention. House Voss lost my credit guarantee, the invisible shield that had kept them solvent for decades. Every door she thought was hers closed, one by one, because the key had always been mine. And while she was busy trying to become human for a man who was already selling her secrets, the Blood Queen sent me a single message: "Come to Nocturne Hall. The seat beside my throne is empty." Chapter 1. My vampire wife tore out her fangs for a human, and I let her. Nocturne Hall was built under New Orleans long before the city above learned to lie politely about what walked beneath its streets. Tourists drink cheap hurricanes on Bourbon Street, brass bands play under yellow balconies, and every ghost tour guide pretends the worst things in this city have names safe enough for brochures. But below ground, the Crimson Court gathers under vaulted ceilings of black marble, lit by candlelight and old silver, with stained glass windows that have never seen the sun. That night, every bloodline that mattered was present: House Blackwood, House Voss, House Nocturne, House Marlowe, House Devereux. The old families sat in carved seats around the circular chamber, dressed in modern tailoring over ancient hunger. Lawyers, bankers, hospital directors, blood vault officers, security chiefs, family elders, and the occasional beautiful monster who still believed teeth were better than paperwork. At the center of it all stood my wife, Serena Voss. When Serena was still mine, she looked like moonlight that had learned pride: dark hair down her back, pale skin, a black silk gown, eyes the color of garnet wine. She was a pure-blood daughter of House Voss, one of the oldest vampire families in the American South, and she wore nobility like a blade. Beside her stood a human man in a charcoal suit, Dr. Evan Mercer, soft in the way human men can be soft when no one in the room is allowed to eat them. 34, a physician, founder of Sunrise Clinic, a human-facing non-profit that claimed to help vulnerable people after dark. Publicly, he was a compassionate doctor who treated undocumented patients, night shift workers, blood disorders, and rare metabolic cases. Privately, he had spent the past year convincing my wife that I was a cage and he was a window. Serena held his hand. That was the first insult. The second was the silver bowl. A ceremonial bowl rested on the table before the covenant registry. Meant for rings, blood seals, and signed contracts, not fangs. Fangs were not decoration to our kind. They were heritage, hunger, identity, weapon, oath, and memory. They were the first sign of noble blood in a child and the last thing most vampires bared before death. In certain old ceremonies, mates touched fangs to seal a bond deeper than any signature. Serena and I had done that 32 years earlier. Now, she stood before me with a physician's tool in one hand and defiance burning in her eyes. Lord Nathaniel Voss, her father, sat to the right, looking irritated rather than heartbroken. That was Nathaniel. Family feeling mattered to him only when it affected his bottom line. Marcus Reed stood behind my chair. He was my chief executive officer, half-blood by birth, savage by commentary, and loyal by choice. He leaned close and whispered, "Adrian, if she starts a speech about freedom, I am leaving through the ventilation shaft." I did not smile. Rebecca Shaw, my human lawyer and blood covenant counsel, sat at my left. She was 45, alive, fearless, and the only person in New Orleans who could tell a vampire elder to stop interrupting without increasing her heart rate. She murmured, "Do not react. Make her state everything clearly." "I know. Yes, but tonight you are a husband. I need the chancellor version of you." I had no official chancellor title then. Not yet. I was only Adrian Blackwood, heir of House Blackwood, keeper of the Crimson Ledger, manager of too many debts, vaults, hospital trusts, blood routes, private homes, and marriage contracts that the old families considered beneath their dignity until they needed them. Serena had once told me I made power look like accounting. She had meant it as criticism. She had never understood that accounting was how power survived centuries. The registrar, Olivia Bennet, stood at the central table. She was a vampire of the court, outwardly 40, truly older than most American constitutions. As independent audit officer of the Crimson Court, she cared nothing for tears, titles, or romance, only covenant language. Lady Serena Voss, Olivia said, you requested an emergency hearing under Covenant Dissolution Clause 7, voluntary severance based on claimed spiritual incompatibility and blood identity renunciation. State your petition for the record. Serena lifted her chin. My marriage to Lord Adrian Blackwood no longer reflects my chosen life. Her voice echoed through the chamber. I entered this bond as a noble daughter of House Voss. I believe loyalty to blood was the highest duty, but I have learned that duty without love is only a locked room. Evan lowered his eyes with professional humility, an expression he had clearly practiced in the mirror. Serena continued, Adrian has been honorable. He has been dutiful. He has been exact. But he has never loved me like a living man could. A quiet stir moved through the court. Marcus whispered, that living man cannot afford his own blood cooler. Rebecca kicked his shoe. Serena looked at me. You gave me contracts, Adrian. Evan gave me warmth. I watched the woman I had loved use the word warmth like a weapon. Our marriage had not been perfect. I knew that. I was not blind to my flaws. I counted risk before emotion. I trusted contracts because centuries taught me that people romanticize what they intend to steal. I showed love by securing systems before anyone noticed they could fail. Serena had wanted fire. I had given her fortification. Some part of me wondered when she began mistaking safety for absence. Then Evan spoke. With respect to this court, I never intended to divide a marriage. That was a lie, told in the tone of a man asking to be admired for it. I only saw a woman suffering inside an identity she no longer believed in. Serena deserves to choose her own life. My eyes moved to his hand over hers. Doctor, I said calmly, did you advise my wife to reject her blood identity? Evan looked wounded. No. I listened to her. Did you advise medical removal of her fangs? No. Serena made that choice. Serena tightened her grip on the instrument. Yes. I did. Lord Nathaniel finally spoke. Daughter, dramatic symbolism is unnecessary. We can dissolve the contract without this display. Serena looked at him. You would all call me confused unless I proved it. Then she brought the tool to her mouth. Even old vampires flinched. She did not scream, I will give her that. She was proud enough to make pain silent. One fang came free, then the other. Blood touched her lower lip, bright red against white skin. The sound of the fangs dropping into the silver bowl was small. It still hit the chamber like a bell. Serena swayed. Evan caught her. He looked at me over her shoulder, and for 1 second, his face changed, not compassion, but victory. That was when the last living piece of my marriage went cold. Serena straightened and looked at me with blood on her mouth. Adrian, you are my past. Evan is the life I choose. Olivia Bennet's expression did not change. For the record, Lady Serena Voss has removed her fangs voluntarily before witnesses. Do you understand the consequences under pure blood status law? I do. Loss of noble predatory privilege pending recovery. Loss of certain blood right authorities. Medical instability risk. Reduced priority in noble reserve allocation if no bond protection remains. Potential loss of succession standing at House Voss discretion. I understand. She didn't. Not really. Understanding a fall from a balcony is easy while you're still standing behind the railing. Olivia turned to me. Lord Adrian Blackwood, as bonded spouse, do you contest dissolution? Every eye in the chamber turned. Some wanted me to beg. Some wanted me to rage. Some wanted weakness they could discuss for the next century. I rose. The room became completely still. I walked to the central table, to Serena. Her eyes changed for 1 second, there it was, expectation, fear, hope, maybe all three. She thought I would fight. Evan thought I would threaten. Lord Nathaniel thought I would bargain. Instead, I took the dissolution document from Olivia. Lady Serena Voss, I said, do you freely request release from the Blackwood marriage covenant? Her mouth tightened. Yes. Do you understand that release terminates all spouse-attached rights, protections, medical priorities, financial guarantees, residential privileges, reserve allocations, and political cover extended by House Blackwood under the marriage covenant? A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. Evan answered before she could. Surely those details can be handled with compassion. I did not look at him. Dr. Mercer, contracts are how compassion survives memory. Serena lifted her chin again. I understand. Rebecca immediately said, for the record, Lady Voss confirms understanding. Olivia nodded. Recorded. I signed, no shaking hand, no dramatic pause, no final plea. The pen moved across paper, and 32 years became an entry in the covenant registry. Then I removed my black wedding ring, a band of obsidian and old silver, and placed it beside her fangs. The bond is released, I said. Serena's face went pale, not because she regretted it, but because she had expected resistance. Nothing disorients the selfish more than clean acceptance. I turned to Olivia. Please register dissolution effective immediately. Olivia stamped the contract. The sound was final. Queen Isabella Nocturne watched from her throne at the far end of the chamber. She had said nothing throughout the hearing. The Blood Queen rarely wasted words in rooms already full of fools. But as I stepped away from the table, her eyes met mine, gold, ancient, and sharp enough to cut future from past. She inclined her head once, not sympathy, but recognition. I left Nocturne Hall without looking back. Marcus walked beside me. Rebecca followed. At the corridor entrance, Marcus finally spoke. Well, that was the most expensive dental decision I have ever seen. Rebecca said, Marcus. What? It was. I looked ahead. Send the orders. Marcus's expression changed. All spouse-attached privileges? All of them. Sunrise Clinic funding, withdraw anonymous support. Preserve active patient care through neutral channels. Serena's reserve priority, terminate marriage priority, ordinary allocation only. Voss credit guarantee, suspended pending formal review. Evans access dead before sunrise. Rebecca nodded. Good. Do not prove she broke your heart. Prove she released your protection. At 2:14 a.m., every Blackwood system began closing around the decision Serena had made. Chapter 2. I signed the contract and closed the blood vault. Blackwood Manor sat behind iron gates in the Garden District, old enough to look haunted, secure enough to make ghosts show identification. I reached home at 3 a.m. The house knew before the staff did. A Blackwood marriage bond was woven through our domestic wards, not with childish magic, but with contract-linked access systems, blood recognition, legal trusts, and old defensive rights embedded in the walls. When Serena's bond dissolved, the manor responded. Her portrait dimmed in the East Hall. Her blood mark vanished from the private vault door. Her access to the south wing closed. The bedroom we had shared for decades unlocked as neutral territory, then sealed itself for inventory. Nothing screamed. Nothing exploded. The house simply stopped lying. Marcus met me in the library with 3 tablets and a bottle of blood wine he knew I would not drink. I have the preliminary revocation list. Read it. He did. Serena Voss, spouse priority at Crimson Reserve terminated. Noble emergency blood drawline converted to ordinary Voss allocation pending House Voss account status. Blackwood residential access cancelled. Security residence revoked. Blackwood medical escort privileges cancelled. Private night transport revoked. Art vault privileges revoked. Voss family credit guarantee suspended. Political proxy vote cancelled. Good. Evan Mercer, Sunrise Clinic Anonymous Operating Grant terminated after active patient bridge protocol. Nocturne Medical Trust demo access cancelled. Legacy protocol viewing account cancelled. Blood storage subsidy cancelled. Patient referral exception cancelled. Courier channel cancelled. Good. House Voss, interfamily debt guarantee suspended. Reserve overdraw review triggered. Night hospital credit line reverted to pre-marriage terms. I looked up. That will hurt. Marcus's smile was not kind. They should have read the marriage contract before cheering the divorce. Rebecca entered, her coat still on. Active patient continuity? Marcus tapped another file. Neutral bridge funded directly through Nocturne Medical Trust for 72 hours. No sunrise discretionary control. No vampire or human patient loses immediate care because Serena decided romance required dental theater. Rebecca nodded. Legally clean. I sat behind my desk, a desk that had carried the weight of everyone else's emergencies for years. House boss cash shortages. Serena's medical experiments. Evan's clinic requests. Noble blood allocation disputes. Secret hospital invoices. Youth faction petitions. Royal audits. Requests wrapped as needs. I had believed service was love when given willingly. Now it had to become evidence. Rebecca placed a folded document before me. Marriage dissolution implementation order. Sign here, here, and here. I signed. And the human side, Sunrise Clinic, will receive written notice that anonymous grant support has ended due to termination of the underlying private donor relationship. We will not identify vampire matters. We will preserve records. We will request financial documentation for restricted funds. Do it. Evan may go public. Let him. He will call you vindictive. Then we show timing and terms. Marcus leaned against a shelf. Adrian, she will call. I know. She will say you are hurting her. I am protecting myself. Yes, but she has never cared for the difference when emotional leverage is available. He was right. At 4:36 a.m., Serena called. I let it ring. At 4:39, Evan called from Sunrise Clinic's emergency line. I let Rebecca answer. She put it on speaker. This is Rebecca Shaw, counsel for Blackwood Holdings and Nocturne Medical Trust. Evan's voice came sharp, less warm without an audience. Why has Sunrise access been interrupted? Sunrise's temporary access was connected to a private Blackwood grant and spouse-level medical cooperation through Lady Serena Voss. That bond has been voluntarily dissolved. Active patient bridge protections remain in place through neutral channels. You cannot do that overnight. It was not done overnight. It was triggered by a contract Lady Voss dissolved before witnesses. Adrian is punishing Serena. Mr. Blackwood is enforcing the terms she accepted. Patients will suffer. No active patient service has been interrupted. Your discretionary access to Blackwood resources has been terminated. Silence. Then Evan said, this is exactly why Serena left him. Rebecca replied, that sentence is not a legal argument. Marcus mouthed, I love her. Evan tried again. I need to speak to Adrian. No. He is hiding behind you. No, Dr. Mercer. He is standing behind documents you did not expect to matter. Rebecca ended the call. At 5:20, Serena sent a message, Adrian, this is beneath you. I asked for freedom, not cruelty. At 5:25, Evan's clinic helps people. Do not let your pride make you monstrous. There it was, the first attempt to turn my refusal into violence. I handed the phone to Rebecca. Preserve. She did. By sunrise, Crimson Reserve confirmed the changes. Serena arrived at the vault in person at 7:12 p.m. that night, head drawn low, Evan beside her, both expecting drama to bend policy. The vault manager, a dignified half-blood named Grace Monroe, handled it perfectly. Lady Voss, your spouse priority has been terminated. Your current status allows ordinary noble allocation through House Voss account channels. Serena's voice sharpened. I am Serena Voss. Yes, my lady. My family has drawn from this vault for 90 years. Yes, my lady. My husband built the system. Your former husband, my lady. Serena recoiled. Evan stepped in. She is weakened. She needs stabilized blood. Grace folded her hands. Then House Voss may place a medical request through proper channels. Emergency care may be sought at Nocturne Medical Trust. With what priority? Evan demanded. Ordinary patient priority. Serena's face flushed. Ordinary, for noble blood, few words cut deeper. Evan said, Adrian would not dare let her suffer. Grace met his eyes. Lord Blackwood has ensured she will not suffer. He has not ensured she will remain privileged. The security footage reached me an hour later. Marcus watched it twice. Grace deserves a raise. She already earns more than most senators. Then give her a sword. Serena called again. I did not answer. I was not punishing her with silence. I was preventing myself from explaining a contract she had willingly signed, broken, and expected to keep bleeding from. Evan moved first publicly. At midnight, Sunrise Clinic released a statement. After Lady Serena Voss bravely rejected oppressive old blood structures, certain aristocratic interests have attempted to restrict medical access for vulnerable night patients. Sunrise Clinic remains committed to human vampire compassion and freedom from feudal control. Marcus read it aloud. Feudal control. That man cannot keep a refrigerator calibrated, but listen to him overthrowing civilization. Rebecca said, "We respond with facts." Our statement followed, "No active patient care has been terminated. Temporary discretionary access connected to a dissolved private covenant has ended. Nocturne Medical Trust has established neutral bridge support to ensure continuity for current patients. Any claim that Lord Blackwood interrupted emergency medical care is false." Then Daniel Price arrived with the first real trouble. He set a tablet on my desk. Evan tried to access legacy Nocturne protocols using Serena's old credentials. When? 3 times tonight. Blocked. Yes. What did he try to reach? Daniel's expression hardened. Old vampiric metabolic stabilization protocols, version 4. Rebecca looked up. Current version? 7. Version 4 lacks the synthetic blood stability appendix and identity protection safeguards. Marcus muttered, "He is going to build a hospital out of expired instructions." I looked at the screen. Serena had torn out her fangs for freedom. Evan was already trying to build a business from the pieces. Chapter 3. The human learned he did not own my blood network. Evan Mercer loved microphones. That should have warned everyone earlier. Competent doctors usually fear saying too much in public. Evan seemed to believe every camera was a confessional built for his virtue. 3 nights after the dissolution, he stood outside Sunrise Clinic under soft white lights and announced the Sunrise Covenant program. Reporters from human non-profit media attended, along with a few vampire-friendly underground channels. 2 young blood influencers, and enough curious donors to make Evan stand taller. Serena stood beside him. Her lips were closed, hiding the absence of her fangs. She looked beautiful. She also looked tired. Fang removal does not make a vampire human. It makes feeding unstable, healing slower, and blood regulation difficult. Without noble medical priority, she had to rely on scheduled reserve access or controlled synthetic blood, both requiring procedure. The very thing she had rejected when it was attached to me. Evan smiled at the cameras. For too long, vampire medical care has been controlled by old families who treat blood as power. Sunrise Covenant offers a new future, one based on choice, dignity, and cooperation between human medicine and night patients. Night patients, that was his public term for vampires, soft enough for donors, vague enough for regulators. He continued, Serena has shown extraordinary courage by rejecting symbols of coercion. Serena's eyes flicked slightly. Good. Somewhere inside her, a noble daughter still knew her fangs had never been symbols of coercion, they were symbols of self. But Evan's story needed her mutilation to be liberation. He touched her hand. She let him. Our first phase will expand stabilized blood access, night trauma care, and identity-safe patient records outside aristocratic gatekeeping. Marcus watched the press stream in my office and said, "That means he wants our blood, our hospitals, and our fake paperwork." Daniel added, "He also lacks authorization for all 3. The first call came 10 minutes after Evan finished speaking. Sunrise Clinic requested emergency draw access from Crimson Reserve for a group of program launch patients. Denied. Then Sunrise requested synthetic blood transport through Blackwood couriers. Denied. Then Sunrise requested Nocturne Medical Trust identity masking support. Denied. Then Evan's office contacted 3 independent blood storage facilities claiming Blackwood transition authorization. Rebecca sent preservation notices by dawn. At 8 p.m., Serena went personally to Crimson Reserve again, this time without Evan. Grace Monroe met her in the glass-walled reception hall of the Vault headquarters, where every surface was clean, reflective, and quietly hostile to lies. I watched later through the security record. Serena stood very still. "Grace, I need a stabilized reserve packet." Grace bowed her head. "Of course, Lady Voss. Please submit House Voss medical authorization and current status verification. I do not want to go through my father." "Then you may request ordinary independent allocation." "How long?" 3 nights for non-emergency stabilization. Serena's jaw tightened. "I was priority last week." Yes, my lady. Because of Adrian. Yes, my lady. There it was, the first clear admission, small, administrative, devastating. Serena looked at the floor. Can you call him? No, my lady. Will you tell him I came? The system will record it. She flinched. Our world had changed. Her pain no longer traveled to me as duty, it became a log entry. That evening, Evan called a youth faction gathering and accused me of cruelty. Old blood will starve anyone who leaves their cages, he said. Lord Blackwood wants Serena weak so she crawls back. The clip circulated through vampire social channels by midnight. Serena reposted it. That hurt, not enough to change anything. Marcus found me watching the clip. She is angry. Yes. She thinks anger is easier than realizing the floor was yours. Yes. You want me to say something comforting? No. Good. I had nothing. Daniel came in with new logs. Evan used Serena's old Nocturne credential again. Different route. Blocked. He also downloaded a public-facing version of version 4 protocols before the credential died. Public-facing educational archive incomplete, old. Rebecca entered behind him. If he uses that for treatment, can patients be harmed? Daniel's answer was careful. If he treats it as guidance without current safety appendices, yes. Can we warn him? We already did through access termination. Warn again, I said, formally. He will ignore it, but the record matters. Rebecca nodded. The warning went out. Sunrise Clinic is not authorized to use Nocturne Medical Trust protocols. Legacy or current, for clinical treatment. Legacy educational materials are incomplete and not valid for patient care. Any use requires written authorization and certified supervision. Evan's reply came through counsel. Your attempt to monopolize basic medical knowledge will be noted. Marcus read it and said, that is doctor language for yes, we are doing the stupid thing. Serena came to Blackwood Manor 2 nights later, not the front door, but the east gate. She still knew the old route through the jasmine wall. Or thought she did. The gate did not open. She stood under rain, pale and furious, and pressed her hand to the bloodlock. Denied. She tried again. Denied. Finally, she called the main line. The house steward transferred to Rebecca, not me. I watched from the library camera. Adrian, Serena said when Rebecca answered. Stop hiding. This is Rebecca Shaw. I want my husband. Your former husband is unavailable. Serena's face twisted. I built a life in that house. And then voluntarily dissolved the covenant that granted you access. Do you enjoy saying that? Rebecca's voice did not change. I enjoy accurate statements. Serena looked toward the dark windows. I need to speak to him. Rebecca waited. Serena lowered her voice. Please. I closed my eyes. Rebecca looked toward the camera, not directly, but enough for me to know she understood. I shook my head. She said, Lord Blackwood will communicate through counsel regarding covenant matters. Serena laughed once, broken and bitter. So he is just a ledger now. I almost went to the door. Almost. Then Evan's text appeared on Serena's phone screen. When she lowered it, the camera caught enough. Did he give in? We need access before Friday. Not, are you safe? Not, are you in pain? Did he give in? I remained in the library. The east gate stayed closed. Chapter 4. His human clinic was built on my old protocols. Sunrise Clinic looked clean from the street, white brick, glass front, warm lights, posters about dignity, care, and night access medicine. Human donors love places like that because compassion looks more trustworthy under minimalist branding. Inside, according to Daniel's audit, the systems were chaos wearing a lab coat. Nora Fields reached out first through Rebecca's protected compliance channel. She was Sunrise Clinic's compliance officer, human, 37, with a background in nonprofit medical administration. She had joined Evan because she believed his public mission. She stayed long enough to realize missions can hide in voices. Her first message was simple: Sunrise Clinic is preparing to use legacy Nocturne protocols. I have concerns about patient safety and authorization. I need counsel. Rebecca responded within 6 minutes. The next night, Nora met us in a private room above an old pharmacy in the French Quarter, neutral ground, human-owned, vampire-protected, no phones except Rebecca's sealed recorder. Nora looked exhausted. I warned Dr. Mercer twice in writing. The materials are outdated and incomplete. Daniel sat across from her. Which materials? She handed over a drive, version 4 metabolic stabilization, partial synthetic blood storage rules, and a donor identity masking worksheet. He said Serena had access through her marriage and that Lord Blackwood would not risk looking cruel by challenging the program. I said nothing. Nora glanced at me. I'm sorry. You didn't steal them. No, but I helped organize the launch, then helped prevent the harm. She nodded. Rebecca asked, did Serena know the clinic lacked formal authorization? Nora hesitated. Yes. Do you have that in writing? Yes. She produced printed emails, Nora, Dr. Mercer, and Lady Voss. We do not have current written authorization from Blackwood Holdings or Nocturne Medical Trust. Legacy files should not be used for clinical treatment. Serena, Adrian will not let patients suffer, even if he is angry. Proceed carefully until he stops posturing. I read it once, then again. Posturing, that was what she called boundaries, not grief, not law, not covenant. Posturing. Marcus, standing behind me, went very quiet. Rebecca took the page gently. This matters. Yes. My voice sounded far away. Nora continued, Dr. Mercer also routed restricted donations into Mercer Biologics. Rebecca looked up. What is Mercer Biologics? A private research company he controls. He says it supports long-term blood therapy innovation. But donations to Sunrise were restricted to patient care and clinic operations. Amounts, about $2.7 million routed or committed so far. Some not yet transferred. Marcus said, of course. Human Savior needs a side company. Nora flinched. I said, Marcus. He's right. Nora said softly, I should have seen it sooner. Daniel reviewed the drive. His face hardened. These are definitely Nocturne materials. Old watermarks remain. Blackwood archive lineage. Rebecca asked, can Evan use them safely? No. Can he make donors think he can? Yes. There was the danger, not evil genius, but confident inadequacy. Rebecca sent a stronger cease and desist that night. Sunrise Clinic ignored it. Evan announced a public clinical demonstration for selected observers, donors, and night patient advocates. He framed it as proof that vampire medicine did not need aristocratic permission. The Crimson Court youth faction amplified it. Serena promoted it. Houseboss stayed quiet, which meant Nathaniel was waiting to see which side won. Queen Isabella sent no public statement, but at 1 a.m., a sealed note arrived at Blackwood Manor. Black wax, Nocturne seal. Inside, in the Queen's handwriting, let him build his argument. Then show the court what happens when mercy is stolen and called freedom. I read it twice. Marcus leaned over. The Queen always writes like she is standing on a balcony during a thunderstorm. She is usually correct. She is also watching you. I know. Good watching or eating watching? With Isabella, there is often overlap. He grinned. That is the first interesting thing you have said since the divorce. Dissolution. Same. Coffin cleaner paperwork. The demonstration was set for Friday. We prepared for harm, not embarrassment. Nocturne Medical Trust placed a discreet response team nearby. Crimson Reserve staged proper stabilized blood in an unmarked vehicle. Daniel monitored any attempted connection to live systems. Rebecca prepared official statements. Nora preserved internal clinic instructions. Serena sent me one final message before the event: if there is any part of you that ever loved me, do not interfere. I stared at it, then replied for the first time since the dissolution: if there is any part of you that still understands patients are not symbols, stop him. She did not answer. On Friday, Evan opened his clinic doors. By the end of the night, his miracle needed my system to keep people alive. Chapter 5. The clinic failed when it needed my real system. Evan filled Sunrise Clinic with warm light and fragile people. That was what made me hate him, not because he loved my wife. Love can be foolish without being evil. I hated him because he brought unstable night patients, hopeful young vampires, human donors, and desperate families into a demonstration he was not qualified to control, and then called it courage. The main treatment room had been arranged like a medical showcase: clean beds, screens, branded posters. A table of synthetic blood packets in silver temperature cases, volunteers in white coats, donors behind glass, a few underground journalists. Serena seated near the front, pale but proud, hiding her missing fangs behind a careful smile. Evan stood before them. Tonight, we prove that care can exist beyond old blood permission. I watched from the Nocturne Medical Trust response van 2 blocks away. Marcus sat beside me. Daniel monitored the clinic systems. Rebecca sat with a legal recorder. A trust trauma physician, Dr. Elaine Marrow, waited with a small team and proper supplies. The plan was simple: do not interfere unless patients were at risk. Let Evan speak. Let the record form. Then save people if his arrogance turned dangerous. At first, the demonstration appeared controlled. Evan presented 2 stabilized blood therapy cases, 1 metabolic support case, and 1 identity-protected referral workflow. Daniel watched the data. His storage logs are wrong. How wrong? I asked. Temperature records incomplete. Synthetic batch 3 appears unstable. Rebecca made a note. Inside, a young half-blood patient named Tyler began shaking. His pulse spiked. Evan's staff moved quickly, but not correctly. They are using version 4 response flow, Daniel said. Dr. Marrow leaned forward. That is outdated. Serena stood. Evan glanced at her, then at the observers. We expected mild adjustment response. Tyler's eyes darkened. Hunger response in a half-blood is not dramatic at first. It looks like fever, panic, and the body remembering it is partly predator. A second patient reacted, then a third. The synthetic blood case indicator flashed amber. Daniel's voice sharpened. They are matching from the duplicate table. Patient IDs may be crossed. Rebecca looked at me. Threshold? Dr. Marrow answered before I did. Now. I gave the order. Nocturne Medical Trust entered through the clinic's rear emergency access under authority of a standing patient safety compact older than Evan's medical license. Dr. Marrow took command. Step away from the blood packets. Now. Evan turned, furious. You have no right to enter. I walked in behind her. The room went quiet except for Tyler's ragged breathing. I do, I said. You triggered a night patient emergency under unauthorized protocol use. Serena stared at me for 1 second, relief crossed her face, then shame. Evan moved toward me. You planned this. No. You scheduled it. Dr. Marrow stabilized Tyler with proper reserve supply. Her team corrected the patient records. Daniel isolated the clinic's corrupted matching table. Marcus secured the storage room. Rebecca served an emergency preservation notice to the clinic administrator. Serena swayed, her own blood regulation was failing under stress. She tried to hide it. I saw. So did Evan. He did not move. That was when some part of her finally noticed the man she chose. I nodded to Dr. Marrow. Lady Voss needs stabilization. Serena whispered, I do not need your pity. This is not pity. It is medical protocol. Dr. Marrow treated her. Evan told the observers, as you can see, cooperation is possible when old houses stop resisting. I turned toward him. No. The room stilled again. I faced the glass wall where donors and journalists watched. For the record, Sunrise Clinic did not stabilize this event. Nocturne Medical Trust intervened under emergency authority. These patients were placed at risk by unauthorized use of outdated protocols, unstable synthetic blood storage, and improper matching records. Evan's face went white. Serena closed her eyes. Rebecca stepped forward. All records, devices, treatment notes, supply logs, donor materials, and authorization claims are subject to preservation. One donor whispered, he said they were authorized. Marcus answered cheerfully, he says many things. The clip spread by dawn. Evan tried to spin it as sabotage, but too many witnesses had seen Dr. Marrow stabilize the patients. Too many logs showed the clinic systems failing before we entered. Too many donors had heard me say one word that ruined Evan's narrative, unauthorized. Serena came to Blackwood Manor the next night. This time she did not try the gate. She sent a formal request through Rebecca. Lady Serena Voss requests private audience with Lord Adrian Blackwood regarding patient safety and personal medical status. Rebecca asked, do you want to see her? No. Are you sure? No. Legally? Legally, no private audience. Medical status through trust physicians. Patient safety through counsel. Rebecca nodded. Good answer. Serena received that reply an hour later. Evan released another statement, old blood forces invaded Sunrise Clinic to undermine a human-led care movement. Dr. Mercer will continue fighting for patients against aristocratic cruelty. Nora Fields sent Rebecca a message 10 minutes later. He is lying. I have the internal files. I am ready. Chapter 6. The clinic compliance officer had the receipts. Nora arrived at Blackwood Manor under rain. Humans usually entered our house through the front door and pretended not to notice the old protections in the walls. Nora noticed everything: the iron threshold, the absence of mirrors, the scent of preserved paper and cold stone, the two silent guards who looked human until they did not. She still walked in. That mattered. Rebecca brought her to the library. Marcus, Daniel, and I were already there. Dr. Marrow joined by secure call. A court courier waited outside because some evidence belongs in rooms with seals. Nora placed a hard drive, 2 binders, and a sealed envelope on the desk. Dr. Mercer has been lying to the donors, the patients, and Lady Voss. No one interrupted. She opened the first binder. Sunrise Clinic received restricted donations for night patient stabilization, mobile outreach, and blood storage upgrades. Dr. Mercer transferred funds to Mercer Biologics under research support invoices. How much? Rebecca asked. $2.7 million moved. Another $4.1 million committed but not transferred. Marcus whistled softly. Human compassion has excellent margins. Nora opened the second binder. These are internal warnings. I told Dr. Mercer we lacked Blackwood authorization. I told Lady Voss the same. I warned that version 4 protocols were educational archives and not valid treatment guidelines. She showed Serena's email again. Adrian will not let patients suffer even if he is angry. Proceed carefully until he stops posturing. The words hurt less this time, not because they were less cruel, but because they had become evidence. Rebecca asked, "Did Evan rely on that?" Nora nodded. He said, "Good. Then Blackwood is trapped. He either helps us or looks like a monster." Marcus's eyes went flat. Daniel opened the hard drive. Authorization drafts? Nora pointed. Folder labeled Blackwood Support. Daniel glanced at Marcus. Marcus whispered, "Please let there be a final _2. There was a draft authorization. Certificate claiming House Blackwood supported Sunrise Covenant program access to Nocturne protocols in Crimson Reserve supply lines. File name, Blackwood _off_final_2_docs. Marcus placed a hand over his heart. Criminals remain committed to tradition. Rebecca did not smile, but I saw the corner of her mouth move. Nora continued, there are also emails between Dr. Mercer and a private investor group. Mercer Biologics intended to develop proprietary longevity treatments from vampire metabolic research. The room changed. Even Marcus stopped joking. I looked at the documents. Evan had described night patients as a gateway population. He had written about vampire regenerative markers, synthetic blood enhancement, and intellectual property opportunities. He had promised investors access to biologically unique data sets through the Sunrise Covenant program. Serena was not a lover in those documents. She was access, a bridge, a credential with lips. Rebecca's voice chilled. Did Lady Voss know about Mercer Biologics? I do not think she knew the full investment pitch. Did she provide materials? Yes. She forwarded some files from her old Blackwood Access archive. I warned her not to. Records? Yes. Daniel pulled them up. Serena to Evan, these are older files Adrian kept in the shared medical folder. He never throws anything away. Use only what helps patients. Evan, you are saving lives. He cannot punish that. Serena, he will be angry, but he will not let you fail if patients are involved. There it was again, the same assumption in different clothes. Adrian will not let patients suffer. Adrian will not let you fail. Adrian will keep bleeding after we cut him. I leaned back. The library fire cracked softly. Centuries of Blackwood portraits watched from the walls. I wondered how many of my ancestors had confused endurance with dignity until someone finally wrote down the bill. Rebecca closed the binder. We request a Crimson Court hearing. Do it, I said. And human regulatory referral. Yes, through the medical charity fraud channel. Quietly. Nora looked relieved and terrified. Will patients be protected? Yes, I said, through the trust, not Evan. She nodded. Then I will testify. That night, Rebecca filed 3 actions. One before the Crimson Court for unauthorized blood system access, covenant misuse, and noble privilege abuse. One through private human legal channels for Sunrise Clinic financial misconduct and restricted donation diversion. One with Nocturne Medical Trust to permanently remove Sunrise Clinic from unsupervised night patient care pending review. Evan responded within hours. He released a video. He looked tired, noble, and perfectly lit. Lord Adrian Blackwood wants to punish me because Serena chose love over ownership. He has cut off resources, invaded my clinic, and now he attacks our funding. This is what old power does when humanity threatens it. Serena appeared beside him. She looked unsure. Evan took her hand. This woman gave up everything to be free. I will not let him drag her back into darkness. Serena lifted her chin, but her eyes were not steady. Good. Truth had begun to bruise the fantasy. At the end of the video, Evan announced he possessed written proof of Blackwood's prior support. Rebecca watched it twice, then looked at Daniel. Find the seal. Daniel did. The fake authorization arrived the next morning and the seal broke before lunch. Chapter 7. They called me cruel until the seal broke. Blood seals are difficult to forge badly. That did not stop Evan from trying. The document he submitted to the Youth Faction Council and several human donors claimed House Blackwood had authorized Sunrise Clinic to use selected Nocturne Medical Trust protocols, Crimson Reserve supplies, and Covenant-protected patient pathways for the Sunrise Covenant program. At a glance, it looked old: an official black border, red seal, my name, a witness line, a covenant number. To anyone outside our systems, it seemed convincing. To Daniel Price, it was a dead animal wearing a hat. He dismantled it in the Crimson Court pre-hearing chamber, with Olivia Bennett presiding. Rebecca beside me, Evan and Serena across the table, Lord Nathaniel Voss behind his daughter, and Queen Isabella watching from the upper gallery in silence. Daniel spoke calmly. The covenant number does not exist. Evan's jaw tightened. The electronic seal does not match House Blackwood seal rotation records. The timestamp places execution 2 nights after Lord Blackwood revoked Sunrise access. The document template originated from a Sunrise Clinic administrative workstation. He displayed the metadata, Blackwood_off_final_2_docs. Marcus was not allowed to speak at the pre-hearing. He still wrote a note and slid it to me. Final_2 is the patron saint of idiots. I folded it without reacting. Olivia turned to Evan. Dr. Mercer, who created this document? My administrative team maintains records. Rebecca asked, which member? I do not know. Convenient. Evan looked at Serena. Serena gave me every reason to believe Adrian would support patient care. Serena stared at him slowly, as if his words needed time to become clear. You said he signed. I said we had authorization. You showed me that seal. Based on what you provided. Her face changed. The first crack widened. What I provided? Evan leaned in, lowering his voice, forgetting the recorder. You sent the files. You said he would not fight if patients were involved. Serena whispered, you forged his name. I protected the work you believed in. No. You used me. Evan's softness vanished. You wanted freedom. Did you think freedom came with his vault key forever? There it was, the sentence that finally cut through where my pain had not. Serena recoiled. Lord Nathaniel stood. Olivia's voice froze the room. Sit down, Lord Voss. He sat. The Queen's gaze remained fixed on me, not Evan, not Serena. After the pre-hearing, Evan was ordered to preserve all records and barred from further unsupervised night patient treatment. Sunrise Clinic's night program was suspended. Mercer Biologics accounts were flagged. Serena tried to approach me in the corridor. Rebecca stepped between us. Serena stopped. Adrian, I did not know he forged it. I believe you. Her face softened with desperate hope. I continued, you knew enough to give him the files. Hope died. She looked down. I thought you would stop him before anyone got hurt. That is not innocence. That is planning around my conscience. Tears brightened her eyes. I was wrong. Yes. She reached toward her mouth, then stopped, a phantom gesture toward fangs that were no longer there. I cannot feed properly. Dr. Marrow can advise your physician. You will not help me. I already did, at the clinic. As a patient safety matter, not as my husband. You fired him in front of the court. She closed her eyes. The words had landed. At the far end of the corridor, Queen Isabella approached. Everyone bowed, even Serena, even Lord Nathaniel. Isabella wore black silk and a ruby pendant older than the city above us. She looked 32 and ancient enough to make time behave. "Lord Blackwood," she said. "Your Majesty. I require your presence in Nocturne Hall tomorrow night for the hearing." "And for more than the hearing." Serena looked up sharply. Isabella's eyes flicked to her. "Lady Voss, when one discards a blade because it does not sparkle, one should not be surprised when a queen recognizes its edge." Serena went still. Isabella turned back to me. "The court has tolerated romance disguised as reform and theft disguised as mercy. I have need of someone who understands the difference." I bowed. "I will attend." She walked away. Marcus appeared from nowhere. I was ordered not to speak in the hearing, but no one said anything about corridors. Did the Queen just flirt through administrative staffing? Rebecca sighed. "Marcus, I am asking for governance clarity." I looked toward the dark hall where Isabella had gone. "No," I said, but I was not entirely sure. Chapter 8. The Blood Queen offered me the seat my wife threw away. Nocturne Hall has rooms most vampires never see. Below the public court, below the council chambers, below even the sealed archives, there is a hall carved into the old earth where the first American blood treaties were signed. The walls are not marble there. They are stone, damp, and dark, veined with red mineral streaks that look too much like old wounds. Queen Isabella received me there, no guards visible, which meant many hidden. She stood beside a long table covered with maps, ledgers, hospital networks, blood supply routes, family debt chains, and covenant registries. My world spread before her. "Lord Blackwood," she said. "You have been managing my kingdom without the title for almost 40 years. I stopped at the edge of the table. "I manage Blackwood obligations." "You manage everyone's obligations when they become too embarrassed to admit they need you. A queen should not be that accurate before midnight." She touched one ledger. "Crimson Reserve survived the Marlowe shortage because of your redistribution plan. That was a temporary adjustment. The Nocturne Medical Trust avoided federal exposure because of your human compliance structure. Rebecca built that at your instruction." She moved to another document. "House Voss remains solvent because your marriage covenant guaranteed their hospital debt temporarily. Everything is temporary to you until someone calls it power." I said nothing. Isabella turned. "You loved her." "Yes. She used your steadiness as if it were a public utility. The truth of it did not require an answer. She did not know what she discarded," Isabella said. "She knew enough." A faint smile touched her mouth. "That is why you are angry." "I am not angry." "Do not insult me, Adrian." The use of my first name struck harder than it should have. She stepped closer. "You are not loud. That is different." For a moment, the chamber felt too small. Then she returned to the table. "I am appointing you Special Chancellor for Covenant Reform." I looked up. "That office has not existed in a century." "Then it is well rested. It will provoke the houses." "Good. They have become lazy." "What authority?" "Review of blood vault access? Noble medical priority, marriage covenant resource abuse, human clinic partnerships, and unauthorized protocol use. Direct reporting to me. That will make enemies. You already have enemies. I am offering you better office space." I almost smiled. "Almost." She slid a sealed document toward me. "This is not charity after humiliation. Do not mistake me for a sentimental monarch. I wanted you in this role before Serena made a public offering of her dental structure." That time I did smile, very slightly. "You sound like Marcus." I will pretend not to be offended. I opened the document, the Queen's seal, full authority, court appointment, immediate effect. "Why now?" I asked. "Because your marriage to Voss was a chain disguised as an alliance. Serena broke it for me." That sentence would haunt Serena more than anything I could have said. I signed. Isabella watched my hand. "You accept quickly." "I have spent decades preparing systems no one wanted to name. A title only makes the filing easier." "That," she said, "is why I chose you." News traveled through the blood court before dawn. Serena heard by noon. She sent no message. Lord Nathaniel sent 7. I ignored 6 and let Rebecca answer 1. Voss protested conflict of interest. Rebecca responded that Serena had voluntarily dissolved the bond before witnesses and that House Voss was now subject to standard audit review like every other noble house. Lord Nathaniel called that an insult. Rebecca called it equality. The youth faction reacted poorly. Evan, barred from unsupervised care and desperate for relevance, held a private gathering in an old warehouse near the river. Daniel accessed the public stream. Evan stood before a crowd of young vampires and human activists. Now you see the truth. Adrian Blackwood never cared about patience. He wanted power. The Queen rewards him for crushing anyone who believes love should be free. Marcus watched beside me. Love should be free, interesting slogan from a man routing donations into Mercer Biologics. Evan continued, Serena sacrificed her fangs to prove we could be more than monsters. Serena was not there. That mattered. Her absence was the first smart thing she had done in weeks. Evan said, the old court wants obedience. Sunrise wants choice. By morning, he had donations again, not many, but enough to tempt him into another mistake. The formal Crimson Court hearing was scheduled for 3 nights later. All parties ordered to attend, Serena, Evan, House Voss, Sunrise Clinic, Mercer Biologics, Crimson Reserve, Nocturne Medical Trust, Blackwood Holdings. The Queen would observe. Olivia Bennet would preside. I would present as Special Chancellor. That title appeared on the notice. Serena called immediately after receiving it. I did not answer. She left a voice message, her voice small. Adrian, I did not know Isabella intended this. I did not know you were that important to the court. I thought you were important to me, and I did not even honor that. I do not know what I am asking. Maybe nothing. I just wanted to hear your voice. I listened once, then sent it to Rebecca for preservation. Not because I wanted to use it, but because the man I had been would have called back. The man I was becoming needed records between impulse and ruin. Chapter 9. The court heard how she used my mercy. The Crimson Court hearing began with my wife's fangs. Olivia Bennet placed the silver bowl on the evidence table, cleaned, sealed, labeled, 2 broken fangs inside, white as bone and sharp as memory. Serena stared at them like they belonged to another woman. Evan stared anywhere else. The court was full, nobles, auditors, blood vault officers, hospital directors, youth faction representatives, human legal intermediaries, and Queen Isabella on the high throne, silent and impossible to ignore. Olivia called the hearing to order. This court reviews matters arising from the dissolution of the Blackwood-Voss marriage covenant, the termination of spouse-attached privileges, unauthorized use of Nocturne Medical Trust protocols, alleged forged authorization, and financial misconduct involving Sunrise Clinic and Mercer Biologics. Evan's counsel tried to object to the combination of issues. Olivia looked at him. Your client combined them when he used a marriage dissolution, medical protocols, public fundraising, and a forged covenant seal in one program. Sit. He sat. Rebecca began with the covenant. She played the record from the night Serena severed the bond. Serena's voice filled the chamber. Adrian, you are my past. Evan is the life I choose. Then my voice, do you understand that release terminates all spouse-attached rights, protections, medical priorities, financial guarantees, residential privileges, reserve allocations, and political cover extended by House Blackwood under the marriage covenant? Serena's voice, I understand. Rebecca paused the record. Lady Voss voluntarily confirmed understanding before witnesses. Lord Blackwood then executed dissolution. Every resource termination that followed was attached to that clause. She displayed the revocation list: blood priority, medical access, residential protection, clinic grant, Voss debt guarantee, political proxy, then the patient continuity bridge. No active patient care was terminated. Neutral support preserved immediate services while ending discretionary control by Sunrise Clinic. Olivia turned to Dr. Marrow. The physician testified clearly, patients at Sunrise were stabilized by Nocturne Medical Trust after unsafe use of outdated protocols. Daniel presented logs, Serena's old credentials, Evan's access attempts, version 4 protocol downloads, watermark lineage, blocked restricted systems. Then Nora testified. She looked terrified, but she did not break. She described warnings to Evan and Serena. She described unauthorized protocol concerns. She described restricted donations. She described Mercer Biologics. Then Rebecca displayed Serena's email. Adrian will not let patients suffer even if he is angry. Proceed carefully until he stops posturing. The chamber went quiet. Olivia asked, Lady Voss, did you write this? Serena's face was pale. Yes. What did you mean? Serena looked at me. I gave her nothing. She turned back. I meant that I believed Adrian would intervene before harm became permanent, despite having dissolved your marriage covenant. Yes. Despite knowing Sunrise lacked formal authorization. Yes. Why? Serena swallowed. Because he always did. There it was, the clearest confession, not legal enough by itself, but human enough to wound. Olivia nodded. Recorded. Evan's emails came next. Blackwood is trapped. He either helps us or looks like a monster. Then, Serena can provide legacy access. The old lord will not risk patience. Then, Mercer Biologics investor notes, night patient datasets may provide unique longevity research pathways. Sunrise Covenant offers access to biologically distinct subjects through cooperative care. A hiss moved through the vampire seats. Subjects, that word revealed Evan more thoroughly than any accusation. Serena turned toward him. You called us subjects. Evan whispered, that was investor language. Marcus, from the witness bench, said, investor language is where parasites put their best honesty. Olivia looked at him. Mr. Reed. Apologies. He was not sorry. Then came the forged authorization. Daniel displayed the broken seal, non-existent covenant number, wrong electronic mark, invalid timing, clinic workstation origin * Blackwood _off final _2 doc star. Even the youth faction representatives looked embarrassed. Evan finally spoke. This is all being framed by old power. Yes, mistakes were made, but the goal was care. Rebecca asked, was transferring $2.7 million in restricted patient funds to Mercer Biologics care? He stiffened. That was research support. Was forging Lord Blackwood's authorization care? I relied on Serena's representations. Serena turned slowly. What? He took the coward's road completely then. Lady Voss provided materials. Lady Voss represented that Blackwood would support patient care. Lady Voss used her status to assure donors. Serena stood. I tore out my fangs for you. Evan snapped, and then expected me to fight centuries of vampire bureaucracy with nothing but romance. The court froze. There it was, the love story had reached its invoice. Serena sat down as if her bones had failed. Olivia allowed the silence to last, then she said, the court has heard enough for interim findings. Queen Isabella finally leaned forward. The chamber bowed without being told. Her voice was soft. Continue to final recommendations. Olivia nodded. Preliminary findings support that Lord Blackwood's resource withdrawals were lawful under covenant terms. Evidence supports unauthorized protocol use by Sunrise Clinic. Forged authorization submitted by Dr. Mercer. Improper use of legacy materials and financial diversion requiring both court sanction and human regulatory referral. Evidence also supports Lady Voss knowingly relied on Lord Blackwood's likely mercy while acting outside authorization. Serena closed her eyes. Evan looked toward the exits, a man thinking of flight. Daniel noticed. Marcus noticed. I noticed. We let him. Cornered men show their routes before they run. Chapter 10. Her human lover sold her before sunrise. Evan tried to leave New Orleans before dawn. That was foolish for many reasons. First, no one flees vampire jurisdiction at sunrise, not because vampires enjoy sunlight, but because the human systems wake up then: airports, banks, federal alerts, clinic regulators, payment processors. Daylight belongs to paperwork. Second, Daniel had already marked every device he touched. Third, Marcus enjoys catching cowards more than he enjoys most holidays. At 4:18 a.m., Evan logged into Sunrise Clinic's administrative server. At 4:21, he attempted to delete donor transfer records. At 4:23, he copied Mercer Biologics investor files to an external drive. At 4:26, he sent a packet labeled Serena Authority Backup to his attorney. At 4:31, he booked a flight to Toronto. At 4:39, the system captured a wipe attempt. At 4:40, Marcus called me. He is dancing. Preserved every step. Where is Serena? At the Voss residence under family watch. Evan on his way to the airport. Human authorities, Rebecca's channel notified, court martials coordinated. Quiet pickup. Good. Marcus paused. Adrian? Yes. He sent a statement blaming Serena. I expected that. You should see it. He sent the file. Evan's declaration claimed Serena had provided all vampire materials, represented that she retained authority after dissolution, assured him that Blackwood would not enforce boundaries, and encouraged him to proceed for patient welfare. He described himself as a human doctor misled by a powerful vampire noblewoman navigating a complicated marriage dispute. Powerful vampire noblewoman Serena, friendless and unstable, suddenly became the monster in Evan's story. The airport pickup was quiet, no blood, no violence. Two human medical fraud investigators, one private court-martial, and a woman from Rebecca's regulatory network met Evan before security. He objected. He invoked patience. He invoked discrimination. He invoked love. Then they showed him the preservation order. Men like Evan hate documents because documents do not respond to eyes. By sunset, Sunrise Clinic was under administrative control. Mercer Biologics accounts were frozen. Evan's passport was surrendered pending human proceedings. The Crimson Court issued a night access ban. He could no longer approach blood vaults, trust hospitals, or protected patients. Serena learned from Lord Nathaniel. Then she came to Nocturne Medical Trust, where I was reviewing emergency patient transitions. She looked unlike herself, no jewels, no silk armor, no proud red mouth. Just a woman in a dark coat, lips pressed closed, eyes too bright. Evan blamed me, she said. Yes. You knew he would. Yes. Why did I not? I looked at the patient files before me. Because you wanted him to be the opposite of me. She flinched. And what were you? The man who made consequences boring enough to ignore. She sat across from me without permission. I let it pass, a final mercy. I need help, she said. For medical stabilization. Dr. Marrow can assist through ordinary channels. I need my fangs restored. That requires a petition, medical review, and noble right allocation. You can move me up. I could have when you were my wife. Her face crumpled. Adrian. No. You do not even know what I am asking. Yes, I do. You want the benefits of a bond you cut because the man you cut it for sold you. She covered her mouth. I was wrong. Yes, I was cruel. Yes, I used you. Yes, I still love you. That one hurt not because I believed it fully, but because some part of me still wanted it to be enough. I stood. Our final dissolution registration is tonight. She stared. So soon? It was effective when signed. Tonight only completes registry closure. Can it be delayed? No. If I testify against Evan. That is for your conscience and your sentence, not our marriage. Tears fell. I tore out my fangs for him. Yes. And you will not help me get them back. I looked at her for a long time. I saved your life at the clinic. I know. I protected patients you used as leverage. I know. I preserved Houseboss from immediate collapse despite your father's insults. She whispered, I know. That is what remains of my mercy. Do not mistake it for belonging. She bowed her head. The proud daughter of Houseboss sat in my hospital office and cried, without fangs, without lover, without covenant, without the confidence that someone else would always stop the fall before the ground. I left her there with Dr. Marrow's number. That night, Rebecca filed the final covenant closure. Serena Voss was no longer my wife in any registry, old or modern. An hour later, Queen Isabella summoned me for the final court. Chapter 11. The Queen took my hand before the whole court. Nocturne Hall had seen executions, coronations, war declarations, blood reconciliations, and the occasional wedding that ended worse than the war. The final court after Evan Mercer's fall was quieter than all of them. Quiet does not mean gentle. It means everyone knows the knife has already been sharpened. Olivia Bennett stood before the court with the final findings. Dr. Evan Mercer submitted forged Blackwood authorization. Used legacy Nocturne Medical Trust protocols without permission, endangered night patients during unauthorized treatment demonstration, diverted restricted Sunrise Clinic funds to Mercer Biologics, and attempted destruction and removal of records after preservation notice. Evan was not present in person, he was under human legal and court access ban. His counsel attended. Sunrise Clinic's night patient program is suspended pending restructuring. Mercer Biologics assets remain frozen. Human regulatory and criminal proceedings are underway through approved channels. A ripple of satisfaction moved through the older houses, not because they cared for law, but because Evan had embarrassed them. Olivia continued. Lady Serena Voss voluntarily dissolved her Blackwood marriage covenant, removed her fangs before witnesses, misused legacy access materials, knowingly relied on Lord Blackwood's presumed mercy while acting outside authorization, and provided materials to Dr. Mercer without formal rights. Lord Nathaniel stood stiff beside his daughter. Serena stared ahead, no tears, not because she had none, but because public consequence had finally taught her stillness. Recommended sanctions, Olivia said. Lady Voss loses Voss succession priority pending decade review. Noble blood reserve priority suspended. Fang restoration right placed on ordinary medical petition schedule. House Voss to repay or renegotiate Blackwood back debts within formal term. House Voss loses proxy privileges derived from the Blackwood covenant. Lord Nathaniel looked as if someone had removed his spine and replaced it with dead wood. House Voss accepts the court's authority, he said. Marcus leaned toward me. Translation, they cannot afford not to. Then Olivia turned toward me. Lord Adrian Blackwood's withdrawals were lawful. No evidence supports claims of patient abandonment. Evidence confirms Nocturne Medical Trust maintained active patient continuity and intervened to prevent harm. The court looked at me, some with respect, some with fear, some calculating new requests. Queen Isabella rose. Every vampire in the chamber bowed. She descended the steps from the throne with the calm of a storm that had learned etiquette. Old houses, she said, have survived too long by confusing personal loyalty with institutional right. A marriage covenant is not a vault key after it is broken. Mercy is not authorization. Love is not a supply chain. The hall remained silent. Dr. Mercer exploited our systems because he believed our shame would silence us. Lady Voss enabled him because she believed Lord Blackwood's conscience would do what her choices endangered. House Voss accepted benefits while mocking the hand that secured them. Lord Nathaniel lowered his head. Serena closed her eyes. Isabella turned to me. Lord Adrian Blackwood. I stepped forward and bowed. She held out a black seal on a silver chain. The Crimson Court appoints you Lord Chancellor. With authority over covenant reform, blood reserve governance, medical access standards, and human partnership certification. A murmur moved through the chamber. This was not advisory anymore. This was power, real power, named power. I accepted the seal. I serve the court. Isabella's eyes held mine. No, she said softly enough that only the front rows heard. You serve the future. Then she did something no one expected. She took my hand, not ceremonially, personally. The court went dead silent. Queen Isabella Nocturne, sovereign of the American Crimson Court, stood before 13 houses and held my hand as if choosing me was not policy, but declaration. Let the record show, she said, voice carrying now, Lord Adrian Blackwood will stand beside the throne as Lord Chancellor. Let it also show that my protection extends to him as consort of this court. Consort. The word struck the hall like thunder underground. Serena's eyes opened. Her face changed, shock first, then grief, then something worse, understanding. She had not merely lost a husband, she had removed the obstacle between me and the seat beside the most powerful vampire in America. Isabella did not look at her. I did, just once. Serena looked at our joined hands, then at me. Her mouth trembled around the absence of fangs. I felt nothing triumphant. That surprised me. I had imagined revenge would taste like blood wine. Instead, it tasted like air after a sealed room opens. Isabella's hand was cool and steady in mine. The court bowed. House Voss bowed. Serena bowed too low, lower than she had ever bowed to me as her husband. Marcus whispered behind me, well, that escalated into monarchy. Rebecca whispered back, do not ruin the moment. I am enhancing it. Isabella squeezed my hand once, not for show, for me. And for the first time since Serena dropped her fangs into that silver bowl, I understood that a broken bond could be more than an ending. It could be an opening. Chapter 12. She tore out her fangs, so I took the throne beside the queen. Reform is less romantic than revenge. That is why it lasts longer. In the months after I became Lord Chancellor, the Crimson Court learned that my idea of power involved fewer speeches and more locked access tables. Marriage covenant resource boundaries were rewritten. No spouse could continue drawing noble vault privileges after voluntary dissolution without new contract approval. Human clinics seeking night patient partnerships had to pass certification, funding audit, protocol training, storage inspection, identity protection review, and court-approved physician supervision. Legacy medical archives were sealed behind educational disclaimers strong enough to frighten even arrogant doctors. Blood reserve priority became traceable. Noble houses could no longer hide family debt behind marriage bonds without disclosure. Nocturne Medical Trust expanded neutral patient continuity so no future Serena could gamble with lives by assuming a former spouse would intervene quietly. Marcus called it installing locks because romance is stupid. Rebecca called it finally making the law say what Adrian has been doing alone for decades. Isabella called it necessary. From her, that was applause. Evan Mercer's downfall continued in the human world. Sunrise Clinic survived only after he was removed from control, its night patient program transferred under trust supervision. Mercer Biologics collapsed under frozen accounts, donor lawsuits, regulatory inquiry, and criminal charges tied to medical fraud, forged documents, restricted fund diversion, and unauthorized use of protected materials. Evan gave one interview before his lawyers stopped him, claiming he had been destroyed by vampire aristocracy. Then Nora released enough documentation through proper channels to show donors where their money had gone. After that, he became quiet. Cowards often confuse silence with dignity when microphones stop helping. Nora joined Nocturne Medical Trust as compliance director for human partnerships. She asked whether vampires always held meetings after midnight. Marcus told her yes, because our kind was allergic to breakfast and accountability. She did not laugh. Daniel did. That counted. Houseboss shrank, not physically, vampires are hard to shrink. Politically. Lord Nathaniel spent most of his time renegotiating debts he had once assumed I would carry forever. Voss lost 2 committee seats, 3 reserved privileges, and enough pride to make the court smell quieter around them. Serena vanished from public life for a while. Her Fang restoration petition entered ordinary review, estimated wait, 6 years. She appealed, denied. She requested noble medical acceleration based on prior pure blood status, denied. She requested Blackwood sponsorship. Rebecca forwarded the request to me. I wrote one word, no. It was not cruelty, it was accuracy. A sponsor is not a ghost of a husband. 3 months after the final court, Serena came to Nocturne Hall, not to the throne room, but to the Chancellor's office. Isabella knew, of course she did. Do you want me present? She asked. No. Do you want guards? No. Do you want Marcus? Absolutely not. The corner of her mouth lifted. Wise. Serena entered at midnight. She wore a simple black dress, no jewels, no family crest, no Voss arrogance arranged like armor. Her hair was tied back. Her mouth remained closed when she was not speaking. The absence of fangs changed her face, not ugly, never that, but unfinished. She looked at the Chancellor's seal on my desk, then at the Queen's mark beside it. I used to think you hid behind desks, she said. I know. Now I think the desks were holding everyone else up. I did not answer. She sat only after I gestured. That was new, too. I testified against Evan, she said. I heard. I told the regulators what he asked me to send. I told the court what I knew about Mercer Biologics. That was correct. I did it too late. Yes. She folded her hands in her lap. I received the restoration schedule. I know. 6 years. Yes. I thought seeing that number would make me angry. Did it? At first. Then I remembered you asked me if I understood the consequences. I said yes because I wanted everyone to see how brave I was. Her voice shook. I was not brave. I was cruel with an audience. There was nothing to add. She looked at me. I loved the way Evan made me feel human. I did not ask why he needed me to hate being vampire first. Good. That was close to truth. Then she said, I miss you. There it was, the old path, softer now, more honest, still closed. I know. I miss the manner. I miss the way you handled things before I knew they were problems. I miss how safe I was. I miss how patient you were. I miss that you never made me beg for protection. You did not value it when you had it. No. Would you value it now because you understand me, or because you lost it? She closed her eyes. I do not know. That honest answer saved us both time. I do, I said. A tear slipped down her cheek. I would sign anything, she whispered. A new bond? A lesser bond? No noble rights? No inheritance? No priority? I would stand behind you instead of beside you. I would take any place you offered. I looked at the woman who had once stood before a court, blood on her mouth, and called me her past. You do not want any place I offer, I said. You want rescue shaped like humility. She flinched. You think I cannot change? I think you can. I also think my life is no longer the place where you prove it. She covered her mouth, no fangs behind her lips, no bond between us, no obligation left in my blood. Adrian, she said, did you ever forgive me? Yes. Her eyes lifted. I continued, I forgave you when I stopped wanting you to understand what you destroyed. That sounds like not caring. It is quieter than caring. Do you love her? I looked toward the black door behind which Nocturne Hall stretched into the old earth. Isabella was somewhere beyond it reading reports, moving armies quietly through accounts and oaths, ruling without begging to be understood. Yes. Serena nodded as if the word had cut something final. She chose you before I knew what I threw away. No, I said. She recognized me. That is not the same. Serena wept silently. I did not cross the room. At last, she stood. What should I do now? Leave without making someone else responsible for the wound you chose. She bowed her head, not noble to noble, not wife to husband, a person acknowledging a debt she could not repay. Goodbye, Adrian. Goodbye, Serena. She left. I sat alone for several minutes after the door closed. Then Isabella entered through the side passage, because queens respect privacy only until they decide enough time has passed. How is she? She asked. Learning. And you? Also learning. She came to stand beside my desk. Do you regret the bond breaking? I thought about Serena's fangs in the silver bowl. Evan's warm lies, the locked blood vault, the patients in Sunrise Clinic, the forged seal, the court bowing, the reform signed into law, Serena walking away at last without asking me to bleed. No, I said. I regret needing the lesson. Isabella placed her hand over mine. No audience, no court, no title, just choice. That is the only kind worth keeping, she said. A year after Serena tore out her fangs, Nocturne Hall held the first public review of the reformed covenant system. The results were clear. Unauthorized clinic access attempts dropped by 70%. Blood reserve abuse declined. Human partnership certifications improved patient outcomes. 3 noble houses disclosed hidden debt before marriage alliances. 2 dangerous clinics were blocked before treating night patients. Ordinary vampires, the ones old houses rarely saw until they became inconvenient, gained safer medical channels. That mattered more than Serena's regret, more than Evan's punishment, more than my title. Power that only avenges is a blade left bloody. Power that prevents the next wound becomes law. At the end of the review, Isabella and I stood on the high balcony above the court. Below us, the 13 houses bowed, not all willingly, but willingness was not required. Marcus stood near the lower steps, whispering something to Nora that made her look horrified and Daniel look amused. Rebecca stood beside Olivia, both of them already arguing over the wording of the next reform clause. My people. My work. My future. Isabella leaned close enough that only I could hear. The court is waiting for your closing words, Lord Chancellor. Must I be inspiring? No. Accurate will frighten them more. I stepped forward. The old covenants taught us that blood is power, I said. They were correct. But they forgot that power without boundaries becomes theft and mercy without rules becomes a weapon for the shameless. From this night forward, no bond will be used to steal after it is broken. No patient will be used to trap a conscience. No noble title will turn another person's duty into an endless debt. I looked across the court. House boss stood in the third circle now. Serena was absent. Good. This was no longer her story. It was mine. When the court ended, Isabella took my hand again. This time, no one gasped. They had learned. Outside, New Orleans moved above us, alive with music, heat, sin, hunger. And dawn still hours away. Once, I had been the husband behind a proud woman who thought my restraint meant emptiness. Now I stood beside a queen who understood that restraint was how empires survived. Serena had torn out her fangs for a human, but I was the one who learned how cleanly a broken bond can set a man free. The end.